He called himself the child who was forgotten. A young man has just come forward saying that he is the hidden son of gospel star Donnie McClurkin. He says that the church has kept him secret, rejected him, and made him feel ashamed for years. Which is more shocking? He says McClurkin had to keep quiet because church leaders wouldn't accept the truth. What did the church really keep secret? And why was this young man taken out of the story of the gospel? What they say will shock you. When you think of Donnie McClurkin, you might pray or think of being saved. Who was a pastor, survivor, and Grammy-winning gospel star whose voice helped heal broken hearts. His story has always been about getting through hard times. Now, though, a young man has come forward and said he is his secret son. What he says could change everything we thought we knew. It's not just a personal scandal. It goes right to the heart of the gospel music business and the strict, often painful standards that are put on black men in ministry. This young man said that he was hidden not because his father thought it would make him look bad, but because the church wanted them to be. He says that church leaders tried to shut Donnie up by telling him that he would be rejected and criticized if he ever talked about his son in public. And when you hear what this young man says takes place behind closed doors, you'll know why the biggest names in church music have been so quiet. We'll explain everything in this movie. The hidden child story, how the gospel world manages its image, the church's strict view on sexuality, and why Donnie's silence might not have been his choice after all. Stay tuned, because there's a twist near the end that could change the way you always think about church leadership. There was a voice before the accusations, the news stories, and the pain. A voice that made churches break out in song and arenas cry. This is the voice of someone who was hurt, shaped in worship, and polished over years of spiritual battle. There was more to Donnie McClurkin than just singing church. He was a moving story. Because he grew up in Amityville, New York, Donnie saw a lot of bad things. An accident killed his younger brother when he was only 8 years old. It was a terrible loss for the whole family. Soon after, he was sexually abused by family members, which caused him years of mental pain, silence, and not knowing who he was. In many ways, Donnie's whole career would be marked by stress all the time. Reputation versus forgiveness. His rise in the church business was like a meteor. People who were going through hard times found comfort in Donnie's music. From the small groups he sang in church to working with legends like Andre Crouch to his huge hit, Stand in 1996. But progress came with close attention. People became more interested in him as his stage grew. Donnie got a lot of attention for both his singing and the honest, deep way he talked about his past sexual problems. Even though he never said in public that he was gay, he often talked about dealing with attraction to people of the same gender and being freed from it through faith. That very subject caused a lot of disagreement in the black church, where talking about sexuality was still taboo, especially among male ministers. Some people liked how honest Donnie was, but it also made him a target. Donnie was often looked at closely, even though he had won many awards, including multiple Grammys, BET Awards, and Dove Awards. People started to guess about him based on his appearances on TV shows, his relationships, and his choice to stay single. But he never broke down, at least not in public. What if he was hiding someone or something the whole time? And what if that silence wasn't just personal? What if it was because the church leaders were trying to protect an image and putting pressure on them to keep quiet? Since that's exactly what the young man who came forward now says. We need to hear his side of the story now. It started with a short video on a TikTok account that not many people knew about. It only showed a face, some raw emotion, and a voice shaking with fear. Let's call the young guy Jordan to protect his privacy. In the video, he looks right into the camera and says 6 words that shook the gospel world. My dad's name is Donnie McClurkin. It didn't get much attention at first. In the end, TikTok is full of crazy claims. Jordan didn't say it to gain power, though. His video wasn't very interesting. He wasn't trying to sell anything. That man wasn't after fame. He was just telling the truth. And it broke my heart. Over the course of a few more films, Jordan told his story. He said that his mother had told him from a very young age that his father was a famous person in the gospel. She finally told him the name Donnie McClurkin when he was a teenager. He said that he had seen his dad on TV, heard his songs in church, and even seen signs with his face for years, and he had always known in his heart, "That's my dad." But this is where things get tricky. Jordan said that his mother had dated Donnie when he was taking a break between big moments in his career, right after his big break, but before he became a global gospel representative. She never tried to get money or looked for a father. Jordan says that she looked out for Donnie's reputation, even though it was bad for them both. Jordan finally tried to get in touch. He reportedly got in touch with McClurkin's team by email, social media, and even individuals in the gospel world. He says that every time he was either ignored or told that Donnie couldn't talk about it in public. Jordan told us something very sad. "They told me I couldn't go to church." He said that people who knew Donnie well told him that it would hurt his father's image, that the church community would turn against him, that recognizing a child born outside of marriage would cause a stir, especially because it would bring up old questions about Donnie's sexuality and vows to remain celibate, and what the emotional cost would be. Jordan said that he was depressed, anxious, and felt like he wasn't worth anything. He said it wasn't just that he didn't raise me. He didn't even want anyone to know I existed. He showed pictures of his family. What he said were emails and voice notes that sounded like handlers cutting off the call. Even though Donnie hasn't said anything in public, the reports sounded stronger because he wasn't saying anything. Jordan's supporters started to ask for answers. Blogs about the gospel wrote about it. Tweets went crazy. A few people said Jordan was lying. Some people said he was brave. But the question remained, why would a young man put himself out there to be laughed at if he didn't really believe what he was saying? If what he says is true, why hasn't Donnie said anything for all these years? But here's the surprise that Jordan added to his last movie that changed the way we think about Donnie's possible silence. He said he had proof, not just words, but also a DNA test and the word of a gospel leader who said it in private. It looked like the story might turn into another internet rumor, but Jordan came back with what he called the proof they can't deny anymore. The young man put up a 6-minute video called, "This is for the people who called me a liar," that has since gone viral. This time, he brought papers. A fuzzy but understandable screenshot of what looked like a paternity test report was in the middle of the video. It said that Donald A. McClurkin was the supposed father. The finding was a 99.4% chance of paternity. Jordan said that the test was done in secret with a DNA sample that was obtained in a way that was not legal. A mutual link in the gospel business made it possible. Let's be clear. No court papers have been shown, and Donnie McClurkin hasn't agreed or disagreed with the outcome. But what's really scary is that Jordan didn't stop there. He said that after sending in the DNA sample, a high-level gospel executive who had worked with Donnie for more than 10 years called him directly. That person told Jordan not to spread this story because it would hurt him, according to Jordan. That's not something you want on your hands. Jordan, holding back tears, said that he saw that as a threat, an attempt to protect the church brand rather than Donnie's heart. Because this is the bad part of the story. There is an unwritten rule in many places that practice black gospel. What you see is everything. For men like Donnie, who had talked about their problems with homosexuality in the past, being publicly linked to a child born outside of marriage would be seen by some as proof of confusion, turning backwards, or even worse, hypocrisy. And, according to Jordan, that's why he was shut up. He said he had several voice memos, one of which had a church official saying, "We don't need another scandal in the gospel world. Do not tell anyone about this." Or you will make his name look bad. One of those videos that got around on YouTube has a voice warning that is hard to hear. We've talked about this for years. It's clear from Donnie. Do not stir the pot. What Jordan meant. It was known to a group of leaders, PR people, and gospel insiders, but they all worked together to hide it. And that claim shocked gospel fans all over the internet. There were a lot of similarities on Twitter to other gospel figures who had been shielded or protected at the expense of being open. No one could answer the question. It's possible that the church knew about the DNA, but why did they keep it a secret for so long? Huge things are at stake. If this turns out to be true, it would mean that Donnie McClurkin, a preacher and artist who is known all over the world, was forced to deny his own son in order to keep up a public image that was based more on fear than faith. As more records came out, the leaders of the gospel spoke less and less. However, it was no longer just about Donnie. What this showed was much scarier, a system set up to protect faith platforms at any cost. Jordan wasn't the only one who was ready to talk. The gospel community was shocked by Jordan's admissions, but some people still didn't believe him. What proof is there that the church knew? Where are the people who saw it? That answer came out faster than anyone thought it would. A woman who only went by the name Sister L came forward in a now-deleted Facebook live a few days after Jordan shared what he said was DNA evidence, but not before people recorded and shared the video and it went viral. Sister L, who used to be the choir director at Donnie McClurkin's church, dropped a bombshell in the video that shocked the gospel community. She said, "I'm not here to start a fight, but I can't stay quiet any longer." Everyone knew about the boy. We were told not to talk. She said that Jordan had been brought to the church in secret by Donnie's staff during a meeting with closed doors. She went on, saying that Donnie was upset. He looked like he knew it, but his boss told him it couldn't come out. Not after everything he'd been through, and with all the attention on him. They said that another incident would destroy the church. What scares you more? Sister L said this wouldn't happen just once. There were at least 2 meetings where the son was brought up among some staff and leaders, but it was quickly shut down with phrases like, "That's a personal matter. We look out for the man of God." It would be terrible for decades of service if this got out. We have no right to judge. We need to cover. Don't challenge or make peace. Just cover. Because Sister L was worried about what keeping this secret might do to the boy's emotional health, she said she was told to leave it alone and God would take care of it. People often say God will handle it. But this time, it seemed like they were putting a spiritual band-aid on what looked like deep, organized neglect. It wasn't just Sister L either. As soon as her video went viral, 2 unknown former ministry workers sent private direct messages, DM, to gospel media pages that repeated her story. We knew what one wrote. A statement from the church's leaders about the culture of shame, silence, and putting image over healing. A bigger talk about mental health in gospel places. The cost of church-based image control and not having a father. The letter hurt a lot. Hashtags became popular in just 48 hours. Where is the grace? The truth is due to our Jordan. And DA, church lies. Young gospel fans started making up their own stories about how churches protected male leaders for the sake of lies, women, and children. Because of Jordan's story, there was a greater reckoning. All of a sudden, well-known people in the gospel space started to break down the door. Fewer preachers started posting messages that were hard to understand. Grace is more important than looks. A lot of the time, the scandal is the quiet. Some people even shared Jordan's letter again with the words, "This hurts, but it's necessary." Donnie McClurkin didn't say anything, though. There were no tweets, news releases, or sermons about it. There was only a growing silence that made people feel guilty. Still, everyone was listening. Being brave had done something that no newspaper could ever do. It gave the story a human face. Many thought it was just another messy gospel story, but it turned out to be a heartbreaking picture of what happens when people who are praised in public don't take care of their own wounds. A source at a big Christian TV network said that the most shocking response was that Donnie McClurkin was asked to do a private interview to finally talk about the problem. He supposedly said no, saying that he was emotionally ready. Instead, a family friend, maybe a cousin of Donnie's, put this mysterious message online. You don't know the whole story, but keeping quiet can be a way to protect peace. Which brought up one last important question. Right on. Would Donnie McClurkin rather protect himself or the church that taught him to be quiet, even if it meant he missed out on the chance to be a dad? The place where truth and memory meet is now at the crossroad, where the silence of one man can be heard by a whole generation of worshipers, believers, and kids who have been forgotten. It was Donnie McClurkin who wrote, "We fall down," and stood bravely on stages, preaching freedom and healing. Now he is at the heart of a story he never wanted to tell, but someone else is finally telling it for him. Jordan's search is no longer just for a father for his son. It has become a mirror for the Black church, showing the quiet places where hurt is hidden under hallelujahs, where looks are more important than relationships, and where gospel icons are protected even when their own mistakes aren't dealt with. The DNA, testimonies, and papers all point to Jordan's claims being true. If that's the case, then we need to ask what kind of gospel expects everyone to be perfect in public, but makes people feel bad about having private scars. We also need to think about what it means for a community as a whole when fatherhood, sexuality, and image are still seen as too sacred to question, off-limits, and untouchable. In all honesty, this story isn't just about Donnie and Jordan. It's for all the preacher's kids who saw their dad worship in public but disappear in private. It's about every child raised to protect the image of a church who wasn't born in a marriage. It's also about all the religious artists whose fame came before their humanity. The fact that Donnie McClurkin is quiet could be a way for him to protect himself, or a system that would rather hide the truth than face it. But Jordan's bravery shows that the truth doesn't die when no one speaks it. It waits, it grows, and one day it speaks out loud. Now it's up to the church world to decide. Will we keep upholding silence in the name of grace, or will we finally make room for redemption that includes telling the truth, being open, and taking responsibility? Now we'll talk to you, the public. What do you think? Do you believe Jordan when he says he is Donnie McClurkin's hidden son? What should the church have done differently? How about legacy and honesty? Can they live together, or does one have to kill the other? Leave your thoughts in the box below. If you think we've been talking about this for a long time, sign up to get more honest, raw, and telling gospel stories that the media won't touch. Also, share this movie if you think the truth should also have a mic. One thing is for sure, gospel music may heal the soul, but what happens off stage is where the healing really starts or stops.